Hello everyone, welcome back to just another F1 podcast here on Apex Motorsport. My name is Richard Smyth and this is episode 20. And joining me for this one is a person who I started this with back in November. It is of course Ryan. Ryan, great to have you back on the podcast. And well, we've just had the Dutch Grand Prix and something I asked Craig last time, sum up the race in just 3 words.
Max Verstappen, orange.
Okay, I thought you were going to go Super Max or something like that. You could have done. The big news that's happened today for us when we're recording is Valtteri Bottas is signed for Alfa Romeo. It's been confirmed. That obviously opens the way for George Russell to go to Mercedes, but we'll focus on him in a little bit. Valtteri Bottas, Alfa Romeo, do you think that's going to be a good combination, Ryan?
I think, yeah. Going into next year, obviously new regulation change, and there's a lot of uncertainty within certain teams. You know, who's to say that Mercedes actually will be the top constructor next year, or even Red Bull? You know, you could get a surprise from the Alpine, or even a surprise from Haas, which is very unlikely, but you never know nonetheless. So I think, you know, moving to a team that still has backing from a constructor that may have spent most of this year focusing on next year rather than this year, because they knew they were going to be uncompetitive this year. You know, Bottas is going to go into that team and, you know, probably help things advance a wee bit quicker than what it has been with the likes of Kimi and Gio. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
And it's obviously a multi-year contract, so that means at the very least we'll see him on the grid in 2022 and 2023, potentially even longer. Something you said there about, you know, it can help the team move forward. Do you think this is sort of what Alfa Romeo are trying to do? They brought Kimi from Ferrari, and that was the leadership role, leading the team forward. We obviously know Kimi Räikkönen's retiring, and we'll speak about him in just a little bit. But do you think this is just a natural replacement? The next driver that is probably past his best as a bike team coming to as a team further down the grid to help them push, well, for Alfa Romeo to try to get into the real midfield battle and push up the grid?
Well, as you were saying, like, Bottas I wouldn't say would be past his best by date. He's getting close to his use by date, but not his best by date. I think he still has quite a lot to learn, and like he has, I guess, he has been in the sport for quite some times. But I do feel he never got to fully, you know, unleash his full potential at Mercedes, because he was always undershadowed and had to be the second-hand man to Lewis Hamilton. You know, it was always been pushed away from really going for race wins, or even, you know, battling Lewis for the wins, because their battle against Red Bull was so important, with Max being the only contributor to that championship. So I feel when he goes to Alpha, you know, he's got, well, at the minute it's Giovanni, but not Giovinazzi, but that might change possibly. I don't think he's confirmed yet. But it'll be interesting to see what happens definitely next year with the team, and how they could advance their car to be actually one of the better cars next year.
It is, of course, an end of the era with Kimi Räikkönen retiring, which he's been in the sport since, I think, 2001, which the year I was born, so, and, you're 2002, so you're just about, but it is weird because all the time I've been watching Formula 1, you know, as a 2016 was really when I got, 2014 actually is when I really got into it, and 2016 mainly was watching every race live. He's always been there, and it would be weird to see a grid without Kimi Räikkönen. We got a little bit of taste of it this weekend when he had to isolate after testing positive for COVID, but it will be weird. Ryan, just what's your favourite Kimi Räikkönen moment that comes to the top of your head?
Gloves and steering wheel. Gloves and steering wheel. Where's my gloves?
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that one. There's been so many iconic Kimi Räikkönen moments. I think for me,
will not have the drink, Kimi.
Yeah.
Why won't I have drink?
And him getting a nice lolly the last time a race was half points was Malaysia 2014, 14. I should know this because I said the podcast last week, because we had the disrupted Belgium Grand Prix, the 3 minute race. Ryan, obviously that frees up the seat at Alfa Romeo beside Bottas. Nick de Vries, Alex Albon seem to be the most likely. Giovinazzi, Robert Schwartzman, Mick Schumacher, Theo Pourchaire. There's so many different drivers, who Nico Hulkenberg as well, that could probably stake a claim for the seat. It looks like it's going to be Nick de Vries' seat. Do you think that with Bottas it'll be quite weird, because that'll be a Mercedes driver and a Mercedes reserve driver, Formula E driver? Obviously they won't be linked to them teams anymore, but in a Ferrari powered car, do you think that'll be quite weird? And do you think Nick de Vries is probably the best option that the team can choose?
See, that's what I don't fully understand. Like, was it Giovinazzi or was it Kimi who was in the Sauber seat?
It
or
was
the Ferrari seat, as it's called, or whatever it is.
The Ferrari Academy seat was Giovinazzi.
So I was taking that up.
But there's been a renew, and something I got wrong in the last podcast. That sort of deal where Ferrari Junior has to have that seat, that is no longer in any contracts. And if we believe the rumours that are out there, that if that was the case, Giovinazzi would still be Ferrari's number one choice for that seat. But they no longer have that in their contract, so it's up to the Sauber group, which Alfa Romeo obviously manage the team now, or they title sponsor the team. It's up to the Sauber group and Alfa Romeo collectively to choose two drivers, and they've chose Bottas, and they have the free choice of their second driver.
So I can see that possibly meaning that with Giovinazzi leaving that Ferrari or Sauber seat, he'll probably become the test driver or reserve driver for Ferrari next year, more than likely.
Yeah, it really would depend on what Callum Ilot's plans are. He's another driver who could probably say he wants that seat, but I think he's probably looking more towards IndyCar. But one option for Giovinazzi could be the Ferrari hypercar in Le Mans 2023, potentially teaming up with Valentino Rossi, and that would be pretty cool. I think he would do a good job there. But Nick de Vries, what if you made from him? Obviously he's the Formula E world champion, the first ever Formula E world champion. I know Mercedes loved the fact that they were able to tweet out ahead of the Dutch Grand Prix that, you know, in the paddock they had the first ever Dutch Motorsport world champion, which I know Red Bull Netherlands weren't too happy about, because I think someone won a motocross championship a few years ago, but they tweeted anyway, and they were, you know, mind games all weekend. But what if you made it from Nick de Vries? Do you think he deserves a chance in Formula 1?
Well, as you said, the performance in Formula E was quite outstanding all year for Nick de Vries. You know, he had some very tight competition with names like Degrassi and Sebastian Buemi, those guys. But as it came down to the last race, was it something like you said, 7 people were in contention to win that race, win the title? Going
into the final weekend, I think half the grid were still mathematically able to win, and I think what made it so easy for him the last race was the likes of Jake Dennis and Mitch Evans going out early on, because they were in a great position to win the championship. But Nick de Vries was able to battle just for the last few points for the majority of the race.
So it's not exactly to say like he did a Lewis, like in 2018, and just gathered up all these points and just blew the field away that they couldn't catch up. He still had to fight for that last, victory to claim the championship in the last race. It's like going right down to the wire at Abu Dhabi, and this year it's gonna be in
it's still gonna be there.
It's still Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia is the race before.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you think he deserves a chance in Formula 1? Because personally, I think he does. When Formula 2 rebranded in 2017, Charles Leclerc won the series, got his move to Sauber. 2018, George Russell got his move to Williams. 2019, Nick de Vries won, but he didn't get a move to Formula 1, where 2020 it was Mick Schumacher, and obviously he moved to Haas. So he's only won since the rebrand, and I think since 2014, if I'm right, that didn't get a chance immediately in Formula One or at all. Do you think that it's worth taking a chance when you have a driver like Valtteri Bottas, or should they look at a Ferrari on driver like a Callum Ilott, like a Robert Schwartzman, or even try to bring Mick Schumacher over to just help the team push forward, or has De Vries actually got the potential to move up the grid even further in the future?
Well, if Nick comes into that Alfa Romeo seat, and if Mercedes still have ties on Bottas's contract being at Alfa Romeo as well as Nick De Vries, well, that would technically, in this very, very, not related way, would essentially be like Red Bull and the Red Bull sister team AlphaTauri. The same sort of similar concept. Obviously, they do that with Williams, but you don't really see it as much with Williams. It's just mainly one driver within the team, but this will be like two Mercedes drivers instead of one. You know, or would that just be three sort of Mercedes teams on the grid? Like, they're not going to be taking the Mercedes engine over the Ferrari, because that's obviously the Sauber team still taking into effect. But be interesting to see that sort of mind
Yeah,
games going on too within the grid.
I would doubt that they would have their links to Mercedes. I know Bottas, he will have cut all ties with Mercedes at the end of the season. I think that's definitely going to happen. For Nick De Vries, I think it's a bit like the other rumour of Alex Albon moving to Williams. Mercedes don't want him to be part of the Williams team if he still has ties to Red Bull, which makes perfect sense, because if you're driving a Mercedes powered car, you know all the tricks with the engines, the engineers will be talking to you. You can pass them on to Red Bull, who are Mercedes' biggest challengers for the world title. Ferrari are obviously a little bit behind themselves, but I think they'll have to be clear that Nick De Vries will be released from Mercedes, and he only has this Mercedes sort of deal through Formula E, and along with Stoffel van Dorn, who used to drive for McLaren, was obviously his teammate in Formula E, that they have these ties as reserve drivers, but there's nothing else beyond that. So I could see, especially with Mercedes pulling out of Formula E at the end of the next season, I could see ties with De Vries being let go. He was let go by McLaren I think the year he won Formula 2. So yeah, I would definitely be interested. But Alex Albon to Williams, do you buy this rumour? Do you think it's going to happen? Apparently there's going to be an announcement within the next few days, if we believe what's true. Do you agree with that? That obviously means George Russell going to Mercedes, which at the time of recording has not been confirmed, but by the time this is edited, released, and you're listening to it, it may have been confirmed. We assume that is going to happen because, well, the whole point was Bottas moving to free up the seat for Russell. But Alex Albon to Williams, a good move, or should they look at likes of Jack Aitken or one of their own junior drivers?
See, I think Williams are still in that, moment where they need someone with a bit of experience. Now, little to say Albon had much experience. He had half a season and then a season, so he had a season and a half roughly. That's not a lot, but it would be more than bringing in someone like Jack Aitken. Yes, Jack Aitken has been patiently waiting, I'd say, for that seat for quite some time, for Russell to depart up to the big team. And now that's happened, I'd say he's in for contention. But if Alex somehow gets in, if Williams start thinking of the bigger picture outside of Mercedes, that's where things start to switch up. The only way I could see that working outside of the Mercedes sort of hierarchy would be the person that replaces the Russell seat, so the Merc seat. If that was, say, the likes of Jack Aitken, one of sort of similar attributes, or even if Nick De Vries decided to slip in there, it would mean then that someone like Nicolas Latifi would have to make a little short departure, because the team no longer needs his daddy's money to help keep the team going. So would they rather go for experience to build next year's car and really tune up their performance, or risk it with another young gun.
I think if Williams will still be I know they said that they're not reliant on the money anymore from Latifi, but that will obviously help the team, and I think that bit of money that comes in to help that will cover more beyond the budget cap, the expenses of the various hospitality and marketing, and try to grow the team in that aspect, because there was a lot of damage done to the Williams name after a few poor seasons. That would help, and I think having Latifi in the car with that extra finance outweighs having a more experienced driver in the car, like a Nico Hulkenberg, driving for the team. Although I think that would be, based on pure racing, I think Nick de Vries, Alex Albon both going the team would be great. Nico Hulkenberg, Nick de Vries. For me, Nick de Vries and Williams sounds like the perfect match, but it sounds like Alex Albon is getting that seat with Nick de Vries going the Alpha. It is a tough one to see which way it's going to go. I think we'll just have to wait for really these announcements to come out, and there's still the craziest possibility out there that George Russell stays with Williams. It's still possible. It's highly unlikely. I'd say it's 99% certain that he's going to Mercedes, but
Daddy's cash to Mercedes, Latifi to Mercedes,
or Lance Stroll.
Yeah, he's also Daddy's cash.
Yeah, or Nikita Mazepin.
Ah, well, that's never happened.
Yeah, so I think the Kimi Räikkönen retiring really kicked off this silly season Formula One. It's a load of worst kept secrets ever, because everyone sort of expected what was going to happen. Is it just a case of letting Bottas have Kimi had his day where he announced his retirement, and everyone was tweeting about how much they loved him as driver. It's the same as Bottas today, and I'm sure if Russell gets the move to Mercedes, which may be confirmed when you're listening to this, I'm sure it's the same about how great of a job he's done for Williams, and then they'll allow a day or two before they announce the replacement, and the same as the second Alpha seat. So interesting few days, but something I think we'll go into now before we chat about the race itself. A little bit of F1 fantasy, Ryan. I had a very good weekend at the Belgian Grand Prix. I had built up, I think, a couple 100-point lead, and then they decided we give half points because obviously they did that in real life too. So we'll start then with the current leaderboard, and I am still in the lead with 2,117.5 points. These half points are going to be very annoying. Well, you're second, third, and fourth, and I'm fifth and sixth. So there's only, I can't do quick maths there, 30 and a half points between me and you. So there's lots still to play for. Obviously we're going for the whoever gets number one at the end of the season, because that's the big thing. But what was your best scoring team for the Dutch Grand Prix?
For the Dutch Grand Prix, it was my Jap Scrap engine. It had Verstappen, Perez, Gasly. Obviously then I lost out with Tsunoda. I had Ocon and then Red Bull as my constructor. That race week gave me 155 points. One thing I wish I remembered to do would be put my turbo driver on for Max Verstappen, because I knew there was no way in heck that Max was not going to win this Grand Prix this weekend under no circumstances. Everything was just going his way, his previous knowledge, the test runs on that track. And I clean forgot all about F1 Fantasy. I'm not even joking. So that is why I missed out on a nice double points almost, which would have helped me secure quite a few more positions here.
My best team was actually my BWT Racing Aston Force of India Martin Point. That's my main team. Hamilton's 41 points. Norris as my turbo driver got 26. Gasly 28. Sainz and 13. Russell didn't score any points for me at all, and McLaren had 13 overall. So it was a pretty decent weekend. 121. I had 114 in one of my other teams. So yeah, any changes going into the next race. Obviously it's the Italian Grand Prix, and we have a sprint race as well. Are you going to make any changes going into that?
At this point, I'm sort of baffed because there's not much more I can really do with my teams at this late into the season. I'm gonna try and keep my Jap scrap just as standard. I had Ocon in. I'm very tempted to just get rid of Sonoda for good because he's never improving. He's constantly either almost in the points or just nowhere near it at all. So he is probably my biggest letdown so far in my team. My best team essentially, not the my good team, but the best team is my Jap scrap. So he's letting me down there for definite. Apart from that, my good team had a decent enough week too. Bottas, Perez, Ocon, Norris, Gasly with McLaren as the constructor. Not too bad, only 122 points. And then obviously my Merc team, which is just down in the dumps. Really, 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 really bad. It's only 97 points this weekend. But sure, what can you do?
I think we chat a little bit about the race now, and it was of course the first Dutch Grand Prix in quite a long time, and it was some atmosphere. It was fantastic to see. Verstappen obviously delighted some crowd by taking both pole position and the race victory, and although Hamilton was at one point he was quite close behind him, a few bad strategy calls, Mercedes not really reacting to Red Bull as well as they wanted. Ryan, just do you think Mercedes ruined Hamilton's race, or do you think Verstappen just was on another level and Red Bull put all their efforts into him to give the Dutch fans a home race win?
Yeah, no, I definitely do think that no matter what Mercedes were trying to do, whether it was mind games over social media, mind games between, teams or even press interviews, it just was not happening. Red Bull had one focus this weekend, and that was to ensure that on the first time Zandvoort, or even the first Dutch Grand Prix in that many years, they were going to win it for Max, and Max was going to win it. They had everything pretty much set up all weekend. They were quite fast in practices and obviously in qualifying. As I was saying, they give Max the opportunity earlier was it at the start of the year or really early last year when the track was being resurfaced and remodeled. They allowed him to go out, and I think it was a 2016 Red Bull to sort of feel out the track. So Max probably had the best chance possible going in. Also, Mercedes didn't get the best opportunity, did they? Was it FP2? Lewis's engine failed on him, or FP2.
Yes, FP2, yeah.
So he didn't get that opportunity just to maybe have a long pace run, or even as Toto announced, they didn't get a chance to run the hard tires. So that's why they didn't want to put Lewis on hard tires during the race, because it was unfamiliar territory. That's a direct quote from the man himself. If you don't trust me, just go onto Sky Sports and you can find that very easily. But no, I think Mercedes, no matter what they did, they had no chance against the Red Bulls this weekend. Obviously, different situation with Perez, but it wasn't completely his fault. So,
I think Max Verstappen was definitely on another level this weekend. And similar to what you see Hamilton and Silverstone, it's just Verstappen's equivalent. But the atmosphere, it looked to be like a carnival all weekend. It was fantastic to see, just a sea of orange everywhere. And the Mercedes, I think they had two team members or two people in the crowd with orange Mercedes t-shirts, and they're really nice t-shirts. So if anyone from Mercedes is listening and they have a couple spare, drop us a DM, because I really want one of them because they're so nice. But I think I seen the first lap Verstappen was pulling away that much from Hamilton that I knew then I was like, the Verstappen really wants to win this race. We knew that anyway, but it was just so convincing, and I was worried about how much damage this incredible turn 3 banking would cause the tyres. A bit like mind the last time they ran in the road course, where only 6 cars lined up in the grid.
Good old Michelin tires.
Yeah. I thought the tires would take a lot of beating going around, and well, the AWS graphics lived up to their full potential again this weekend with Verstappen 10% tires with 30 laps to go. It was, well, they didn't have a good weekend anyway. I would love to know what sort of mathematics go into that though, because it does feel like they just put the numbers in a random generator.
I think they just sort of, go, well, the tyres have just come off that car. We're going to take a quick nosy, see what they look like. That one looks a bit worse than that, so maybe the rest of the cars are going to be doing around the same based on their laps. So that car's done about 28 laps. His tyres came off after about 30. We're going to say they're about, 20% worn on the rear left. We're going to say about 30% in the front left. And then the two right sides, we'll stick them both at 50 because, the two right sides weren't being battered as much.
There's a race, I think it was last season, maybe the season before at some point, where Hamilton put on the hard tyres, done 8 laps, and it was 10% all around left in the tyres, which...
Yeah, I think that's just due to... Guys, my tyres are gone.
Every 2 minutes. I must say, he was on the radio.
He made it to lap 8. He made it to lap 8, was it not? And they complained, guys, the tyres are starting to go.
He was on the radio quite a bit. I don't actually remember hearing any other driver bar Hamilton on the radio during that race. They were really focusing on him, and I'm sure the other drivers had stuff to say as well. It was quite interesting to see that. But Ryan, this banked corner, turn 3, it's just fantastic, isn't it?
Oh, I think it improved the race so much more. There's a lot more focus. See the first 10 laps, I just couldn't get over how, not entertaining, but how exciting, I guess you could say it was. The thrill was just there. My eyes were glued to the TV like, how is nobody making a mistake? And one thing I've noticed too, this is the first race I genuinely feel that the TV cameras have put up the speed of the track. Whether it's because, the corners are so narrow and the placement of the cameras, but every other racetrack you go to, bar Spa, that one uphill climb at Spa, literally nothing seems fast in Formula 1 when you watch it on TV nowadays. But that race, it looked fast, it looked aggressive, it was unreal to watch. It was a real spectacle. I was just eyes straight to the TV. I couldn't take my eyes off. I was like, how are they going through this here with the bank corner, turning out straight away? Someone's going off the high bit, getting a bit more exit speed. Someone's took the low bit and trying to get the outside corner going into the next right-hander. Oh, it was unbelievable, and it was all happening within a matter of split seconds, and you're like, wow, what it must take to really be a Formula 1 driver driving that track at high speed in a race situation. Crazy.
What I love about the circuit is that it's just built on the land that was there. None of this leveling it out to make a nice level track. It was, if there was a bit of a hill or whatever, they would put tar over it. They just built it into the actual circuit itself, the layout of the ground, which just made it so much better, and it was just so enjoyable to watch. And for me, it's up there with one of the best tracks I've seen. Not from a racing point of view, qualifying, I think it's a perfect track for the race. It's a bit like Monaco, there's not too much that happens, but it definitely is a fantastic circuit. And I think I'm surprised it's taken us this long to chat about our channel favourite, Pierre Gasly. 4th place, Ryan. 4th place for Pierre Gasly. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it was quite surprising seeing him just, he sort of kept his ground the whole time. He qualified 4th, and he finished 4th. He just stayed solid the whole way through, which was quite, well, I suppose it's not quite surprising because, he's improved so much over this year. He's got the whole weight of AlphaTauri on his back due to, the little man not pulling his weight. Well, not that he has much weight himself to pull, but Gazman's doing all the hard work here, sitting up in 4ths and 5ths and 6ths the whole way through the season. It's not surprising he's in 4th, but still, to come 4th on a track he hasn't really raced on, apart from possibly his junior Formula career, it is really crazy to think that this guy just come out of nowhere and was like, you know what, I feel like I'm being fast today. I'm gonna finish fourth.
I think something that was very interesting, and I could be wrong, I picked it up from Crafty over the weekend, that only Yuki Tsunoda is the only driver who's never driven this track before. Most of them done it in their Formula 3 days. I don't think Formula 2 ever had it. The Masters of Formula 3, I think Hamilton, Verstappen and Bottas all won that. Also, also the top three of the race, and obviously the podium in the end up as well. So they all know this track. It's a new track for Formula 1 in so much of the current configuration. They used to be racing there, obviously, but it's been a long time. The cars have changed a lot since then. Brent, is there any sort of corners that come to mind or parts of the track where you think that definitely it's too dangerous, or they definitely can't go side by side there? And is there anything to the track you think can help improve the actual racing side of things to promote more overtaking?
I do think maybe the corner coming out of the first banked corner. So after you come around that sharp banked left-hander, and you go on to that slight straight into the right-hander, I do think if it was just a wee touch wider, especially, just a wee touch wider on the exit, so you can carry just that wee bit more speed to get round if you can. And if it was possible, I would lengthen the start-finish straight, just as it's not exactly long. It just needs to be just about longer to allow a wee bit more time to overtake.
I'm going to throw you on the spot here, like I like to do. If there's one corner in Formula 1 which you could turn into a banked corner, what would it be?
I'd stick it in the Sochi Autodrome to make it a wee bit more interesting, because everyone hates Sochi. I like Sochi. It might be a boring race, but you can still race there. It's still a decent enough race. Like, come on, the last three corners is nice. It's very nice.
I don't know what it is about you and Sochi. You'll be glad to know that the final round of the Formula 3 season is taking place there instead of Austin, Texas. Potentially,
well, isn't that lovely?
Potentially leading to the actual Formula 1 race in Austin being cancelled as well. But for me, I would turn Cops at Silverstone into a banked corner, because if you make that a banked corner and then make Megas and Beckett's an S-shaped banked corner, so you're going up like an S shape, and then make Chapo into a banked corner and then down the straight, I think that would be cool to watch.
Are you a Red Bull soapbox designer or something? That many bank corners at high speeds? Not that chance. They'll take off like an airplane, sir. Oh wait, no, they won't. They've too much downforce.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll sink like a boat.
That would be a
take
good
off
idea.
And just drop.
That would be an idea for the future Apex Motorsport Soapbox Derby. Make Silverstone full bank corners. Obviously a lot smaller, but want to keep in mind, suppose. Valtteri Bottas ignored team orders of slow down as he proceeded to set the fastest lap and the new lap record. Was that the sort of final? Yeah, I'm not listening to you anymore, Mercedes. I know that I haven't signed a contract. I know I signed a contract with Alfa Romeo, and I'm not going to play the team game anymore. I'm going for the best final couple of races in a race winning car that I can.
I don't entirely think that was true, because I don't know if it was Toto or whatever video I was watching, whether it was James Allison and Peter Bonington.
Yeah,
one of the two. One of the two was speaking or something. I don't know who I was watching on YouTube, but one of them was saying that from the data, whatever you are, if you're, I don't know what you're listening to, but apparently Sector 1, Sector 2, he improved. Sector 3, he should have still been up another nearly, I think it was something like 8 or 9 tenths on the fastest lap, but he backed off. So he actually did back off, but he didn't back off using the brake. He just let off the accelerator a wee bit. So he did technically back off, but he still managed to set the highest time. So I don't think it was completely intentional, but it was quite funny hearing James coming onto the radio. Valtteri H. James, we need you to abort this lap. You know, you're not going for the fastest lap. It was funny.
And
That was good. Good.
yeah, that obviously meant that they had to pit Hamilton again, which was quite risky because anything can happen at pit stop, as we've seen, Bottas in Monaco, where it took them 4 days to get the tyre off. Anything can happen, and Mercedes potentially threw away a podium there, because of what Bottas done. So I think if Bottas was sticking around for next season, I think it would have been handled much more differently. That this can't happen, and we're seeing in one team in particular where the drivers are starting to clash, and we're seeing sort of a negative atmosphere forming. That's down at Haas with Nikita Mazepin and Mick Schumacher. Mazepin has been pulling some very dangerous moves, especially in the past few weeks. He went in qualifying, I think it was, or FP3. He pulled out and blocked one of the drivers. It almost caused a big crash, and then during the race yesterday, he almost pushed Mick Schumacher into the pit lane. Do you think that, we all know what Mazepin's like, but do you think that the FIA will need to step in at some point to stop him from making these dangerous, potentially huge crash moments happen again?
It's time to go. Get him out. Get Mazepin out. Mick is too much of a kind-hearted soul. He still obviously has to have his aggressive side when racing, but that is not uncalled for. That is uncalled for what Nikita Mazepin did. Haas, find yourself some decent sponsors. Get your Alkali out of the mix. Get Mazepin booted off the team, and let's have some proper racing next year. Because Mazepin, as perfectly pointed out, we'll shout out FP1. Well, Haas Watch, go watch that shit. It's funny. But yeah, Mazepin needs to go. I don't care at this point. Every driver, I think, has a problem with him, or has had an incident or a near incident on track with him, whether it's due to him from spinning out in front of them or blocking them. I think everyone's just fed up with him. He's had his chance to show that he is a decent driver from what he showed in Formula 3 and Formula 2. He hasn't just done that in Formula 1. Instead, he's been an arrogant asshole. So, it's time to go.
And the final point we'll make about this race was obviously Kimi Räikkönen wasn't able to race after testing positive for COVID-19. Fingers crossed we'll see him back, hopefully in time for the Italian Grand Prix, but if not, whatever the race is after that. Robert Kubica stepped in as reserve driver late on Saturday morning. He got FP3 and obviously got qualifying. Ryan, what did you make of his performance? Because he did say it was the first time in 11 years that he was able to challenge or race against others in the Formula 1 car, which just shows you what that Williams car was like a few years ago for him.
To be fair, I think he handled that quite well on his own. He showed actually quite decent how should I say it, pace. He showed quite decent pace compared to the other cars that they normally race. I think he finished, was it 16th, 17th? Was it possibly? I can't remember.
Yes, 15th.
15th?
Yeah, 15th.
15th, his first time back. His highest finish was obviously 10th in his final year, scoring that 1 point. But aside from that, it was mainly, the 20th, 19th battle between him and George every race. I think it was finally time to give him just a wee bit extra power, just to prove to himself and to let other people know that he can still race, even if he does only have one proper functioning hand. The other hand still works perfectly fine. It can turn a wheel, but it would be nice to help press buttons on the other side as well. But all fair play to him. He definitely put up a good performance this weekend.
And there was something quite satisfying of seeing the number 88 and the number 99 on the two cars. I do like things like that. And I also really like the podium being a 33, a 44, and a 77. it's the small things that I really like in Formula One. So yeah, Ryan, we'll move on to predictions now for the Italian Grand Prix, where we're going to have our second sprint race, or sprint qualifying, I should say. It'll be interesting to see how this one goes. Obviously, I had one at Silverstone a few weeks back. So Ryan, we're going to start off with what will be the Friday night qualifying, which will set the grid for the sprint qualifying race on the Saturday. Who do you think will get the, well, we can't say pole position, but it's pole position for sprint qualifying, the fastest on Friday qualifying? This is just as confusing as it was last time, but this is no help to anyone.
So, for the practice sprint qualifying,
the Friday evening qualifying.
yes,
Mhm.
Friday evening qualifying, which is qualifying for the sprint race that qualifies for the race.
Yes.
So this is the pre-practice sprint race.
Yes.
Pre-qualifying sprint race.
Yes, because it is pre-practice
Yes.
for the sprint race, because we got that stupid FP2 session on the Saturday morning. So who is going to be fastest on the Friday evening?
Fastest on the Friday evening around Imola. Let me think. I think more than likely we're going to see the Mercs back up, so I'm going to say Lewis Hamilton.
Okay, I am going to go, well, if you're going for Hamilton, I will go for Max Verstappen then. So then, sprint qualifying, your top three, so your point scorers for the race that isn't a race, but is also qualifying, but it's not qualifying because it's a race.
Yes. I think it's going to be Lewis Hamilton,
Yes.
Max Verstappen, and Charles Leclerc.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to go Hamilton, Verstappen, and Norris.
I think the Monegasque is going to pull that Ferrari
See,
from the hinges.
I had him down for a race one last time. I should also actually say the points the last time. I scored 1 point by saying Hamilton would finish in second place. And Craig got 2 points for saying Verstappen and pole on Hamilton fast lap. So my Charles Leclerc victory didn't happen. My 12 cars to finish didn't happen. We thought we were going to see half the grid out.
Demolition Derby.
Were you surprised of how clean the race was?
Yeah, after seeing how qualifying and practice went, cars spinning left, right, and centre, even, experienced drivers, making mistakes going around the bank corners, and it was like, hold on a second, how is this going so fast? The cars are still nimble and stuff, but there's aggressive racing going on. The track is small, the track is narrow. What is going on here? Not a single major mistake happened that whole Sunday. It's crazy.
So your race winner for the Italian Grand Prix, the race that will be on the Sunday and not the Saturday race that isn't the race that's qualifying, the actual Grand Prix.
As much as I would like to say it, I would like to see Gasly win it again. Make sure you put that tweet out this year just in case.
I know. That still haunts me.
Just in case.
Yeah.
But no, I think that we're going back to standard format, but I still think there's going to be a switch. I think Max is going to steal it from Lewis, but Charles or Carlos will finish third. It'll be a Ferrari in the third position anyway.
Okay. So who did you say race winner would be?
Max.
And second place?
Lewis.
Okay, I'm going for Hamilton to claim his 100th Grand Prix victory, with a win obviously. Max Verstappen in second, and Valtteri Bottas in third. Fastest lap, I'm going to say it's going to be Verstappen. Who do you reckon, Ryan?
Pierre Gasly.
Okay. And your wild card, I'm going to say Gasly 4th place. I know he finished 4th this weekend. Will you allow me to have Gasly 4th place, or should I? Actually, I'll go Gasly 4th, Russell points.
That's fair enough.
It's wild card enough, I think.
Wild card for me, Lance Stroll top 7.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you
I
that.
was gonna say 6, but then I was like,
Mm,
6 is maybe a bit too ambitious.
yeah, we'll
And
give
Stroll's not that good around Imola, so that's why I said 7th.
we'll give you 7th, and like half these predictions we can argue them out at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So Lance Stroll 7th, and
you going for a double prediction this time?
home race for Antonio Giovinazzi points.
Okay, that makes sense. It would be very typical that the drivers who don't have a seat or move seats next season to really perform well. Like Giovinazzi qualified in 7th for the Dutch Grand Prix, which was incredible, and may just Frederick Vasseur go, let's actually keep him for another season. We don't know. By the time you're listening to this, Russell could be a Mercedes driver. For all we know, Nikita Mazepin could be a Mercedes driver. We don't know just yet. All we know is that Valtteri Bottas will be driving for Alfa Romeo this season, with Kimi Räikkönen retiring, and Nick de Vries and Alex Albon both in line for a seat in Formula 1 with either Williams or the other Alfa Romeo seat. Ryan, I think between that, there's the 2 Haas seats and the 2 AlphaTauri seats open. I would expect that both them driver parents would be signed. Are you expecting any more huge shocks in the driver market before we start next season?
I really don't think so, apart from possibly a few reserve driver changes. That's probably as exciting we're going to get from here on out. I don't think McLaren's going to make any big changes, neither Ferrari. They're quite happy with their lineups. Well, Ricciardo is on the edge, but I think he has a 2-year
He's a multi-year contract, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's already set in stone. Obviously, there is slight talks about why can't I get my head on that? Aston Martin.
Yes.
Seb, will he continue? More than likely,
he did sort of confirm it in a. He was chatting to the press, and he did sort of confirm it. I think I had to laugh that Aston Martin come out, release a statement saying that they have not started talks with Fernando Alonso. I said the best way to start the best way to start a rumor is to shut down a rumor that never existed in the first place. Because I don't remember anyone ever saying that Fernando Alonso could be an Aston Martin driver for next season. Do you think it's a possibility, or do you think he's with Alpine, Vettel with Aston Martin?
I think Fernando's quite happy at Alpine where he is right now. He spent that year development with them. Well, the last, I suppose, what was it, maybe 6 months or so. I think he's quite content where he's at the minute. Good return, no GP2 engine. I think we're okay.
Yeah, no, it'll definitely been an interesting few days in the driver market as well, and of course, we'll keep you up to date across all our social media accounts, our Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, our TikTok, which we recently got back into. We've been creating a couple of videos on there, and they've done quite well, so we'll leave a link to that in the description below. This is, of course, our 20th episode, as I said at the start, which is quite hard to believe. Ryan, do you ever think we will have reached the number 20?
Oh, definitely. There's definitely more than 20 races in a calendar.
That's very true. Yeah, we started at the end of last season. I think we done about the last 5 races of last season, maybe last 4. Then we done a recap, and then we done a couple of previews, and then obviously every race this season. It has been a challenge trying to get a podcast out after every race.
Well,
but
of course, this is just another F1 podcast, not the original series that we started.
Yes, because we had 5 or 6 episodes of the Apex Motorsport podcast, which you of course check out on our YouTube channel. And we do have a video on Michael Massey, which everyone's been talking about recently as well, which is doing quite well. So yeah, just on behalf of both of us, after both of these, and Craig as well, the 20 episodes, thank you for your support. It's been great, and we'll have a couple more this season, and then we'll have next season, and hopefully beyond that as well to look forward to. So yeah, Ren, I think it's time to end with your traditional how many Mazespins for the Italian Grand Prix, and of course we'll include the entire weekend. We should say
Mazespin 1 spin.
Okay. That
Not
is
no spin, 1 spin.
okay.
Because now I feel that I've said 1 spin, he will not even spin.
I'm just checking the Mazepin.com
Oh
to
no,
see.
he definitely did
Oh,
lots.
yes. I'm trying to think see how many he did. He actually only had one at Holland, and that was in FP2.
It was Belgium where he had 3, was it? Or
Well,
2?
we didn't have any in Belgium at all. He actually didn't have any in Hungary before that either. It was Silverstone in the sprint race. So he's making good progress there. Instead, he's sending his teammates in almost into the pit wall. But yeah, well, that's a story for another day with Mazepin. So yeah,
Mazepin, the Formula 1 Beyblade.
very true. That's a very good nickname for him. I'm just about old enough to remember them.
Get that up on the social
Yes,
with his face.
that's a job for you actually. Give you something to do. So yeah, Ryan, any final thoughts before we end off the podcast?
No, I'm quite happy with today. That went quite well.
Yeah, no, it was another great podcast, another great chat about an actual race this time, not 57 minutes of me and Craig having to fill chatting about barbecue sauce and ketchup and bacon babs. Ryan, barbecue or bacon sauce? Not bacon sauce, barbecue or ketchup?
Barbecue ketchup, nah man, brown sauce.
Oh, you see, I thought that was going to be part of the debate last week, but Craig decided barbecue ketchup.
Why would you put barbecue on your sausages? You know,
Ooh.
if you were having a bacon butty, would you put barbecue sauce? No, you put brown sauce.
You see, what we agreed last week was we would have 2 sandwiches, and we would have 1 barbecue, 1 ketchup, cut them in half, and swap half each.
No, thank you. Brown sauce.
Okay, well, that's...
And if you want to be the weirdest person of all in this debate, don't say mustard or salad
mayonnaise.
cream.
Mm-hmm.
Mayonnaise isn't. You can accept that to an extent, you know, if it was in a salad with bacon and stuff, but keep that salad cream away from your bacon.
And your opinion on Yuki Tsunoda having an espresso, a sandwich, and a bowl of soup all at the one time? Do you think that's too much at the one time?
You never heard of a soup sandwich?
I've heard that, but the espresso.
Espresso, he's too small. He doesn't need any caffeine. He's bouncing enough.
And Craig said he would have a cheese, or Yuki Tsunoda have this is what Craig would have, a cheese sandwich. I decided I just want a plain bread roll. What would you be choosing there with a bowl of soup?
With a bowl of soup?
What soup would you have first?
Oh, well, now that depends. Because if it's a nice homemade vegetable soup that my mom makes, well then I would like it'd be a baguette, but it cut up into the small wee pieces.
Yes.
Or more than likely, as it always ends up being, because that's the only thing we've in the cupboard, white bread, or sometimes brown bread, cut into the long triangles, as we call it, the right angle triangles, as most people would know them. But yeah, that's kind of what happens at school. Primary school, it used to be weird, or as Americans would call it, preschool, would it be?
Elementary, is it not?
Middle school,
I don't know
what the heck they call it.
Yeah, before you turn 11.
Yeah, we used to get soup and then get a scone, and then we'd get the scone in our hand, and we'd literally roll it until it had crumbled into nothing, and then we mixed it together, so we had like this soup paste with a scone in it. It was weird, but it was nice because the scone was sweet and the soup was a wee bit so it added a bit of sweetness to the soup, which was quite weird, but it was quite nice. We did that every soup day, which I think was nearly every Thursday, so yeah. And
just for the listeners out there, Ryan, it's been like 8-9 years since you left primary school now. You still remember that?
Yeah, you forget, and you remember the good times. Forget secondary school, you know, those were the depressing times. Primary school was the best days of your life. Like, well, you know where they say school was the best of your life? No. Secondary school was not the best days of my life. I was glad to get relaxed. Primary school? Oh yeah, heck yeah. Best experience of my life ever. You know?
That was just
didn't have to worry about nothing. You woke up in the morning, you took your wee bag with you, you know, P1, P2, P3, it was play in the sand, you know, water, read very easy books, playtime, you know, playtime was actually fun. Well, at my school anyway, it was absolutely unreal. You know, you had days where when you got to P5, P6, P7, you got to go into the AstroTurf pitch, and you know, one day you would eventually get to become the referee, or in this day, as we talk in Formula One, the Michael Massey of the day. So you know, we had some good times, and I think the best memory of any primary school, if they were quite similar. I don't know how this is anywhere near topic to Formula
Yeah,
One.
it's got off topic big time.
But it was ringing the bell at lunchtime to bring everyone back in. I think that was one of the biggest, things you could ever do at primary school at the time.
See, we didn't even get that. We didn't even have a 3G
you had the
pitch.
electronic bell.
Yeah, we then had a big grass pitch where...
Boo!
Yeah, I think we'll end this podcast here before we go off topic even further, because we're almost at the hour mark. So yeah, thank you everyone for listening to this podcast, and Ryan, of course, for joining me for this one. And hopefully you'll join us all again next time for the Italian Grand Prix. Goodbye.
Bye.